The Chicago Sky prepare to face the Atlanta Dream today in a matchup that a lot of people are looking forward to. We're going to preview that game, talk about how the Sky are overcoming their injury concerns, plus go around the W. We're going to do all that and more right after this.
Welcome to Chicago Sky Central, and here's your host, Haize.
What's going on, Sky fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Sky Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Sky and WNBA related, because we cover it all here. I'm the host here, Haize. If you want to follow me right off the top, you can do so at CEO Haize on every social media platform. You can follow the show at Chicago Sky Pod on every social media platform as well. But let's go ahead and get into it. Today, going down at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Chicago time, the Sky will face the Atlanta Dream. The Dream, who are 1-2 on the season, but are not a team to overall be overlooked. Now, we'll preview and get into more of the nitty-gritties and keys to that game here in a second. But as of right now, the Chicago Sky being 3-1 on the season, being third in ESPN's power rankings after starting all the way down at 10th before the season started, the Chicago Sky are opening up a lot of eyes. And part of it is their defensive intensity and identity. And then when you look at the contributions they're getting from players that people didn't even expect to be on teams. When we look at Sika Kone in her first WNBA game after being cut to come in and give the Chicago Sky 10 points and a bunch of rebounds and just be active on the defensive side of the ball, right? When you look at how Elena Smith also stepped right in for the injured Morgan Birch and Isabel Harrison to be our starting four and pretty much gave a similar production, albeit getting caught in transition on in bad positions on defense one too many times for my liking, but overall still gave a really good performance and, really stood up and the next woman up mentality. And overall, this Chicago Sky team and the heart and intensity that they're playing with, it really does bring together what we like in our Chicago-based teams. Playing with heart, playing with defense, playing tough, and overcoming the odds. And that's what the Chicago Sky are doing so far in this young part of the season, albeit only 4 games into the season. But the Sky have shown a brand of defense that could be their bread and butter. And we also, in the last game against the Wings, we saw for the first time in a Chicago Sky uniform just how dangerous Marina Mabrey can be on the offensive end, both in distributing and scoring herself. Taking several step-back threes in that game, going 3-6 from three-point range, and the Sky needed some three-pointers, going 7 of 17 overall from the field, so still really kind of finding her rhythm offensively, which is fine, but really being that offensive firepower that we needed next to Kahleah Copper. We saw Marina Mabrey score 23, Kahleah Copper score 16, and Courtney Williams score 12. And when you look at the Chicago Sky and their output and the players that are leading that team, right, Marina Mabrey now goes up. She's only a 0.1 difference between her and Kahleah Copper as far as point per games, whereas Ka is averaging 15.8. Marina Mabrey's now averaging 15.7 on this young NBA season. And then you have Courtney Williams, who's expected to be our third offensive weapon with 10.5 points per game. Now, Kahleah Copper has not shot the ball efficiently at all yet this season. And so we're still expected to see that. We already talked about Marina Mabrey, how she's coming along offensive as well. So while the Sky have shown the brand of defense that is going to keep them hopefully in games for a long time, anchored by Elizabeth Williams, I do not want to go past not talking about what Elizabeth Williams has meant to this team, averaging 8.8 points per game and 4.5 rebounds. But that stat sheet, take that and throw it away. You really have to watch these games to really understand just how Elizabeth Williams is impacting the game defensively for the Chicago Sky. It's really been a revelation to see. And so we're getting the output from the players defensively for sure. Dana Evans stepping up, averaging 9.8 points per game herself, but being one of our best defensive pit bulls as well as I've been labeling her. But the offensive side for the Chicago Sky, we leave a lot to be desired so far, right? As far as being an efficient offense. The points per game have been pretty solid, right? But especially when you look at the brand of defense that they play, them scoring what they score so far has been solid. But when you look at a team that has barely begun to really scratch the surface of what they can be offensively, mainly because they came into the season missing one of their expected offensive weapons and defensive weapons in Isabel Harrison, but it's a team that still has not yet really congealed enough on the offensive side of the ball. But one thing that we know about a James Wade team, they're going to get it together at some point. And their brand of defense that they plays help them get out in transition, which then gets them easy buckets. And this team feast in transition. The ball movement from this team has been outright beautiful, even when the shots aren't necessarily falling, have been damn good. And when you look at just the depth that we have on this team, I did not know how deep we were going to be. I definitely did not think we were going to be as deep as what we were last season after coming off a championship run. But really, when you look at how these players are developing, if we get Mo Birch back soon, if we get Rebecca Gardner, who I'm really concerned that's going to be a more lengthy injury, if we get her back relatively soon, Isabel Harrison coming back at some point in the season, if we get those 3 players back and add to what we've shown depth-wise so far, and I'm telling you what, the Chicago Sky are going to be a tough team for opposing teams to knock out. And so, we'll see. We'll see. Morgan Birch has already been eliminated in today's game, but James Wade did say that she'll miss a few more games, but will be back in action sooner rather than later. So that's a positive update on Morgan Birch. As far as Rebecca Gardner, we do know she's going to be out Tuesday, but we don't know anything kind of long-term with her. So there's going to be, like I said, Rebecca Gardner, the way that she went down, it really did give me that feeling that she's going to miss some considerable time. But Morgan Birch, she's going to be back probably sooner more than later. And, probably missing maybe this whole week of games, maybe all 3 games this week. But getting her back sooner rather than later is going to definitely bode well and help for the depth shooting and activity that this team has missed with her being gone. So the Chicago Sky have been so good to start the season in the first 4 games, but they face a test tonight in the Atlanta Dream that you cannot overlook. Led by Alicia Gray, who's leading that team with 18.3 points per game. And then you look at Cheyenne Parker and Ryan Howard also averaging 17 points per game. And then you chip in him in there as well, who's averaging 10 points per game on them. The Atlanta Dream are a deep and fun team to watch. Probably one of the teams outside of the Sky that I'm most excited to watch this season. But this team is not to be overlooked. It's not. Led by Alicia Gray and Cheyenne Parker, I'll tell you what, that team is a monster team. And the Sky have to be locked in defensively today because I tell you what, they're going to come in, they're going to try to shoot the ball on us, they're going to try to get penetration there. The Sky have to be prepared defensively, and some of those defensive laps that we saw against the Wings are not going to cut it against the Atlanta Dream, just period. The Sky have to be locked in tonight against the Dream. That's it. The offense, I want to see a more efficient offense, right? That's the thing that I'm keying in, right? We'll start talking about how they can scoring a little bit more, but I want to see that efficiency start to come together. But I understand why it's not there. When you look at a team that's missing so many parts that were expected to be big pieces to this team and rotational pieces, it's kind of hard to expect that cohesion to come there. But we need to be a more efficient team. There was a point in time in the game against the Wings where we started jacking up shots kind of early in the shot clock. I didn't like that. We're more, unless we're in transition, I like when we take the time to move the ball around, have players come off screens, pin downs, and then get the open shot that way. And there was too much, I think, at times against the Wings, too much isolation play from Kalia Copper when the refs weren't really calling any fouls for her. And then on top of that, she wasn't shooting the ball efficiently either. So a little bit too much isolation there. Let me be clear. I expect isolation plays for Kalia Copper, and she deserves to get isolation plays called for. But I want to see kind of less of that, especially when a shot isn't falling, and more of the team brand of basketball. Let's move that ball around against the Atlanta Dream and not really let that defense set up. But Elizabeth Williams is going to be extremely important for this game for the Chicago Sky. Just period. She is going to be one of the most important factors because what she can do in guarding that lane, right, deterring those shots, protecting that rim, that's what we're going to need. And we're going to need that in a big and meaningful way as well tonight against the Atlanta Dream. So I hope that the Sky are up for the test. I think that they are. I think they're going to continue to impress because the Sky have just been playing so good. I've been so proud of watching the way that they play. And it's just been a revelation to see. And for a team that, coming in, like I said, having my doubts on how good this team could possibly be with all the changes, and most part for the WNBA fans having their doubts as well, at least in the first 4 games, the Chicago Sky have showed, hey, we're going to be all right. Let's hope that continues for the Chicago Sky as we move forward through the season. Now, one of the changes we recently made to the show is moving the news from around the W to the back half of the show, so we're going to get into that now. And the first one I want to talk about is Aaliyah Boston and the Indiana Fever snapping a 20-game losing streak. The last time that the Fever won a game was June 19th, 2022 against the Chicago Sky, unfortunately. But they tied the longest losing streak in WNBA history with the Tulsa Shock. And that was during the 2011 season. So they tied a record that's been standing for 12 years. That's wild, right? And so I'm glad that they were able to get the win. You look at Aaliyah Boston and Smith, And the fact that they led the Fever to a win over the Atlanta Dream, who we're playing today, the Dream's going to be coming in trying to avenge that loss and trying to get back on track for sure, because that's a team most people didn't expect to start the season with the record that they currently have. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be tight. It's going to be a game in which, I tell you what, the Atlanta Dream are going to be coming out trying to prove a point, and we cannot let them prove a point. But to focus back on the Fever, shout out to the Fever for snapping that. Aaliyah Boston is just going to be a monster and a beast. It's going to take some time. Yes, it's not going to be that immediately, but you already see just what she's going to be in the WNBA, and she's going to be a monster of a player that's hard to guard. And when you look at like kind of building your teams around a player, for sure, yeah, they're 1-2 on the season. I understand that, but Aaliyah Boston is going to be a monster at the NBA level, just period. First overall pick, she's already averaging 14 points, 6 rebounds, 1.3 assists, and 1 steal per game, right? And that's not anything to overlook. But the Indiana Fever, I should say, have a bright future ahead of them. I just don't need it to be brighter than the Chicago Sky. But also, I touched on it briefly, the WNBA power rankings right now. The top 2 are who you expect. Las Vegas Aces at number 1, the Connecticut Sun at number 2. Them both teams being, the Sun being 3-1, the Aces not losing a game yet. But the Chicago Sky have passed the New York Liberty, being number 3 at 3-1. New York Liberty are 2-1. They're number 4. The Washington Mystics, who we just played 2-2 on their season, we just lost to them, unfortunately. The Wings are number 6. The Sparks are number 7. The Mercury are number 8. And then you already, surprisingly, the Atlanta Dream are number 10. But going all the way to the bottom, the Minnesota Lynx are number 12. They're 0-4 in the season. You kind of expect that from them, as well as the Seattle Storm, both being winless teams so far on the young WNBA season. But, also on top of that, we saw the Aces have their ring ceremony. It was good to see. And as much as I want to beat the Aces, I do not want to see them repeat. You have to just acknowledge the run that they went on last season, winning the Commissioner's Cup, winning the WNBA title last season as well. They are riding it high, adding Candace Parker to that team, having a super team already, and adding a Hall of Famer to that team. They're going to be difficult to beat on this season, but it's been good to watch. It's been fun to watch their game so far, just the way that they execute. And Candace Parker still hasn't really even been fully integrated into that offense, which is crazy to see. But that's it. That's my time for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to an episode of Chicago Sky Central. We'll be back tonight, post-game show, to cover the game tonight, so make sure you guys are tuned in and hit that notification bell if you're on the YouTube side so you can be notified anytime that we go live. But that's it. Make sure you're following the show at Chicago Sky Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoSkyCentral@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Sky and WNBA related. And I'll see you guys the next time we go to Skytown, which is tonight. But I'll see you guys after that again. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.